I have a special relationship with Disney's California Adventure. I've grown up going to this park pretty much, and I've seen it change over the years, so I've had many different opinions on the various iterations of this park. So it definitely holds a special place in my heart, and it's been really exciting to see how it's changed over the years, and sometimes it's been frustrating to see how it's changed over the years. So given my extensive experiences with this amazing park, I figured it would be a great candidate for a wishlist video. Unlike my first two wishlist videos for California Adventure, I have 10 ideas. Some of these kind of contradict each other, so we're just going to go through them one at a time. And of course, they're ranked from 1 to 10. My favorite idea for the future to my least favorite idea for the future. At number 10, this is kind of just a bonus, but I really think that California Adventure needs a new name. I think it's gotten to the point where it's not the same park that it was in 2001. Like, Pacific Wharf was one of the main things that was still there from the original California Adventure, and that just got rethemed to Big Hero 6. So really all that's left from the original California Adventure are the Golden Zephyr, Jumpin' Jellyfish, and Grizzly River Run, but even the areas around those three rides have changed so significantly, and I feel like Grizzly Peak has been completely recontextualized, so it doesn't feel like it's unique to California. Even the giant grizzly bear at the center, it doesn't feel like an icon of the park like it used to, because those trees have really grown in, and honestly, they hide that bear really well, so you can only see it from a few different angles in the park. So I would make the argument that it has lost its icon status, and especially with Disney's marketing, they've been using Mickey's Fun Wheel or Pixar Pal Around as the icon of California Adventure, so which I totally agree with. I feel like that represents the park better, and of course the Disney brand. So I feel like that problem just summarizes the overall point that the identity of this park is completely different. It is no longer California Adventure in my opinion. If I had to choose, I would probably go with something like Disney's Adventure Kingdom, because I really like the word kingdom in Disney park names like Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom. I feel like those are great park names for Disney parks that aren't the original Disneyland. Like if we had Walt Disney's original Magic Kingdom in Disneyland right next to Disney's Adventure Kingdom, I feel like that would work great. But that is kind of basic, so I'm open to other suggestions for a rename of this park. Because when you look at the major lands, we got what's left of Hollywood Land, we have Avengers Campus, Cars Land, Grizzly Peak, Pixar Pier, the new Big Hero 6 food court, and Paradise Gardens Park. So some of those are kind of a mishmash, but I'll dig into some of these lands that I'd like to change later, but I feel like they would all fit under the adventure category, so you would still maintain that portion of the park's identity, but just recontextualize it and broaden its horizons beyond California, because even soaring, you don't even soar over California anymore. Well, for most of the year at least. Moving on to my 9th idea for the future of California Adventure. This has to do with an existing attraction. I really want Disney to retract the loop on Incredicoaster. It is ridiculous how rough this thing is. It's absolutely insane, and I wish that there was a way to know how many children have been traumatized by this loop, because it's probably one of the roughest inversions like I've ever been on. It's ridiculous. Like, it's pretty intense too, so I'm sure a lot of kids, like, this will be their first inversion, and it's not a great introduction. You get some strong G's, but you get shaken a lot. I don't even think that's because of poor manufacturing. I just think that's because this ride has been cycled a ridiculous amount of times. They really need to retract this loop. And when Paradise Pier became Pixar Pier in 2018, they actually removed the loop so that they could redo the back design from the sun into the Pixar logo. So I figured that they would replace the loop then, but they just repainted it and they put it back. It's the same loop and it's just as rough. It was really annoying. I feel like that was such a dumb decision. So I really hope that they can fix this soon. But I'm not sure when Credicoaster will get another large-scale refurbishment like that, so it might be a while. Moving on to number 8. This is my first idea for a new attraction, and I feel like an up trackless dark ride would be excellent at California Adventure. You obviously got to put this in Grizzly Peak, and I feel like the Redwood Creek Challenge Trail might be the only area that you could expand in. So you'd have to demo that and then basically build from scratch. And I feel like an up attraction would be family friendly, so it wouldn't be too big of a blow to family audiences. But Up is just such an incredible movie, and Grizzly Peak is basically the home of Up at the Disneyland Resort. So giving it its own attraction would definitely solidify that. I would be really curious to see where Imagineering would take a ride like this, because it would be super cool if you could like recapture the magic of the movie where Carl lets his balloons up, and then you know that iconic scene where the house is flying away out of the city. Like, that's just beautiful. So being able to experience that on a ride of some kind would just be magical. That would be amazing. But at the same time, maybe they'd want to go the adventure route and kind of make this ride like California Adventure's equivalent to Indiana Jones, in the same like wilderness explorer sort of vibe. Probably less intense than Indiana Jones, but you know, that same like category of ride. Or maybe they could figure out a ride system that could do both the graceful magic of floating with Carl and Ellie's house and the adventure through the South African woods or something like that. That would be incredible. Or maybe they can do a new adventure, because I obviously don't like rides that just retell the story of the movie that it's based upon. So telling an original story would be far better. So maybe something to do with the redwoods in California, that could work. Even they don't have to name drop California, just having it in that setting would fit in better with the existing Grizzly Peak land. But at the same time, if you have a ride that focuses on flying, just like Soarin', it might be a little redundant. Like, I'm not sure how different you could make it from soaring around the world to soaring over a fictional city with Carl and Ellie's house. Like, I don't know how they could differentiate it. But at the same time, I feel like that's just such an iconic experience that would be wonderful to have in an attraction. My number 7 idea for the future of California Adventure is some sort of Big Hero 6 ride. With the Pacific Wharf retheme just opening, I feel like Big Hero 6 deserves like a ride of some kind. Like, I would obviously hope for a trackless dark ride. There's basically no room in that area, so if you want to build a ride, you definitely have to demolish one of the restaurants. And I feel like the one Mexican restaurant, I'm not sure if it's still a Mexican restaurant, but the one that's right in front of Pixar Pier, I feel like that one has the most land behind it. So if they could build a ride, it would probably have to go there. Then you'd have to fit in a queue and a station and maintenance stuff. So I feel like this one is really unrealistic, but Big Hero 6 is a very strong candidate for another dark ride at California Adventure. And I gotta be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of California Adventure's dark ride collection. I feel like it could be a lot stronger. So having an up dark ride, or of course a Big Hero 6 dark ride, that could really bolster this lineup, because I feel like Toy Story Mania and Spider-Man are basically the same ride, which is just baffling to me. Radiator Springs Racers is cool. I have a bunch of thoughts on that for another day. And then Soarin' is a simulator, Guardians is a drop tower, and then Ariel is just super short. So they need a full-fledged dark ride here at DCA. Obviously, in a perfect world, I would take both Up and Big Hero 6, but I just ranked Big Hero 6 one spot above Up because I feel like the ride system could be more exciting. Big Hero 6 is another movie that has so much potential for exciting like action sequences in some sort of attraction. So it could be so cool. And I would hope for a trackless dark ride, because unlike the Up dark ride, it wouldn't have to balance two drastically different experiences. I feel like it could have a more consistent tone, so it could probably have a pre-existing ride system such as a trackless dark ride. Moving on to number 6, for my third dark ride idea in a row, I have an Inside Out trackless dark ride idea. So for this, I would replace Emotional Whirlwind with basically a queue, and then have a show building back behind Incredicoaster for a trackless dark ride themed to Inside Out. This is another franchise that I feel like has tremendous potential for a dark ride at California Adventure. That movie is just so creative, and the fact that it was reduced to a reskinned spinner attraction is kind of pathetic. In my dream world, I would allow Inside Out to have a full-scale dark ride. I'm sure there's no room backstage for a full show building, but you know, this is a wish list, so it is what what it is. So these 3 franchises would be excellent at California Adventure or Adventure Kingdom, whatever it ends up being in the future. So of course I hope all of these would happen, but more than likely we'd be lucky just to get one. Shifting gears a little bit, we're gonna look at what is left of Hollywoodland. This entire bottom left corner of California Adventure is kind of outdated. It's basically just used for special event space, kind of like Oogie Boogie Bash or whatever the Disney machine wants to promote at any given time. They just kind of dedicate this corner of the park to whatever seasonal event that they're having. So it's probably my least favorite corner of the Disneyland resort, and I hate the Monsters Inc. dark ride. I think it's terrible. So I would not be sad at all if we lost that, because that's basically the only permanent attraction in this entire corner of the park. PhilharMagic was a very cheap like reskin, because they got rid of Muppet Vision. They brought in a Frozen sing-along thing, and now that's gone. And then they basically used it to show movie trailers for a while, and now it's PhilharMagic, which is really outdated. And it was a clone from Florida, so it's been here for a few years now, and I don't think anyone would be sad if it's time for it to go. Really, I feel like biggest loss of changing Hollywoodland would be the Hyperion Theater, because I don't think if you could keep that with the idea I'm proposing, which is to make this corner of the park Wakanda from Black Panther. This would basically be an expansion of Avengers Campus, but it wouldn't be Avengers Campus, it would be something else. And I feel like there's enough room back there to basically build a Galaxy's Edge equivalent for DCA, but of course theme it to Wakanda. And that would just be incredible. Like pretty much everyone who's seen Black Panther is like, I want to go to Wakanda. And Disney has like teased the idea that they might build Wakanda somewhere. And California Adventure is the only place that it could go in the United States, because they can't do it in Florida because of Universal. Disneyland is just way too jam-packed, and Disney has already decided that Marvel will live at DCA. So Wakanda has to go to California Adventure if it's going to come to the United States at all. And if you look back at the Eastern Gateway project proposal, Disney was proposing that they relocate the bus stops that are right behind Hollywoodland and move them across the street. So if they do get that project approved one day, they're able to move the buses across the street. They can basically expand DCA even further. So if you demo the backlot, you have a huge plot of land to work with. And I feel like that would be excellent for a Wakanda-themed land. Really, the only issue with this is its proximity to Buena Vista Street. I don't know how that would work. And also the sightlines with Mission Breakout, that might be a problem, because that building is absolutely huge. So it wouldn't be perfect, but I'm sure Disney could work something out. Like, I'm sure that there would have to be at least one giant e-ticket if they built a Wakanda land. Like, if you look at the old Avengers, the original Avengers ride that was proposed / announced, it actually took place in Wakanda. So maybe down the road, if they're able to bring that concept back to life, putting it in a Wakanda land, that could be so cool. Like in the concept art, there's like individual ride vehicles shown, which is just insane. Like I have no idea how it would work. It seems like that idea was just ridiculously ambitious, maybe too ambitious. So it's hard to know if the idea was scrapped because of budget cuts related to the pandemic, or if it was just deemed impractical to create a ride system that separates guests to individual experiences, because obviously capacity is a huge priority at Disney parks. But to see that ride come to fruition one day and actually have it in Wakanda, that could be so cool. Like, you could obviously recontextualize the story to focus more around Black Panther and that cast of characters rather than the Avengers, or you can still include the Avengers, you know. It's one of the most successful franchises of all time, so either way, I feel like people would love it. I feel like this could be a ride that would be like on the level of Rise of the Resistance. Like, in my opinion, I don't think DCA has a ride that even touches Rise of the Resistance in terms of quality, so having a modern Disney ride that's just bonkers would be incredible for this park, and I feel like it would really help out the ride lineup, especially when you compare it to Disneyland right across the street, which is just absolutely stacked. Alright, my next idea for California Adventure, this is also related to Marvel. Right behind Guardians of the Galaxy, there's this little plot of land. It's basically what's left of the original Disneyland parking lot, and we're gonna use it because this is a wishlist video. We're gonna use every sliver of land in this park. So I really feel like California Adventure needs another roller coaster. The park opened with 2 and it still has 2, even though both of them have been rethemed. They're the same ride. And of course, one of them is just the generic off-the-shelf Wild Mouse, and the other is Incredicoaster. So having a roller coaster that is distinctly Disney at California Adventure would definitely be a huge upgrade. And of course, if it's going behind Guardians, it has to be themed to Marvel or the Avengers in some sort. So I feel like because we already have a Guardians of the Galaxy ride, you could not clone Cosmic Rewind. Also, I feel like that show building was just way too big for Disneyland. And after riding that attraction, that story is like tailor-made for Epcot, so I feel like I would be very surprised if Disney ever clones Cosmic Rewind. I feel like that ride was designed to be Epcot's best ride, basically. So my 2 ideas are a Vekoma spinning coaster themed to Ant-Man or a motorbike coaster themed to Captain America. A motorbike coaster in the same style as like Tron. I'm not sure if Tron could fit behind Mission Breakout, but like maybe you could just use the same ride system and then have a different layout, like that's a little more compact, and maybe just put it in a show building. And of course, Captain America's motorbike is like pretty iconic with the shield in the back from the first and second movie, so having that in real life could be super cool. And of course, I feel like the Ant-Man franchise provides so many cool visuals that I feel like a Vekoma spinner, just like Guardians, would be just like Cosmic Rewind. I have to differentiate between Cosmic Rewind and Mission Breakout right now. A Vekoma spinner, I feel like, could really highlight the visuals of the Ant-Man franchise, like shrinking and growing or whatever. I feel like that has some huge potential for some really cool effects. And because the Avengers ride is going on the right side of Guardians, I feel like the entrance for this attraction would have to be on the left. And I feel like there's enough room right there to squeeze in an entrance. So I feel like if Disney really wanted to, they could make it work. Is it realistic? Absolutely not, but that's not really the point of this video. My 3rd favorite idea for the future of California Adventure. It's gonna relate to Pixar Pier. Oh my gosh. Okay. Paradise Pier is like one of my favorite things ever. I absolutely loved that land as a kid. And then when they changed it in 2018, my enthusiasm for this area of the park kind of fell off a cliff. Like, I feel like it's kind of terrible, to be honest. I'm not gonna go into all my issues with Pixar Pier right now, but just retheming an existing land to a brand, not even a franchise, a brand, that just feels so corporate and shallow in my opinion. Like, at least Tower of Terror, when it closed, it got a franchise. It got the Guardians of the Galaxy. It isn't themed to Marvel, you know? It's not called Marvel Mission Breakout. But the pier, they just slapped the Pixar name on it, and they didn't even commit to a franchise. They already had Toy Story there, but they decided, nope, we gotta throw in The Incredibles and Inside Out, because why not? And then I'm pretty sure the area behind the Ferris wheel is just like miscellaneous Pixar characters, which is just the dumbest thing ever. So it feels super messy. Like, the idea of the neighborhoods in a land, it makes me want to puke. It does not feel like Disney to me. It feels cluttered. It feels lazy, in my opinion. What I think they should have done, honestly, is just rethemed a whole thing to Toy Story. Disneyland is obviously never going to get a Toy Story land like Hollywood Studios does in Florida. So I feel like there could have been so much potential. You could have had the story like Andy visited Paradise Pier, and then he went home, and then he built his own pier for his toys, and now we get to go to that pier. Like, that could have been so cool. And Toy Story Mania was right there, dude. The Pixar Pier is just absolutely awful. Like, I don't understand why they overcomplicated it for no reason. Like, you could have rethemed Incredicoaster to like one of those Connect, like toy roller coasters that you've probably seen a video of. Like, those are so cool. And you could have repainted, like, California Screamin' was built to look like a wooden coaster, so you could have like repainted all those white supports to look like those connecting pieces, or like Legos or something, you know, Lego equivalent, whatever those pieces are called. And it would have been so cool. It would have been so much more colorful. And I absolutely hate how they enclosed the scream tubes on Incredicoaster, so it really drains the kinetic energy from the land. And I feel like that was like my favorite thing about Paradise Pier. The kinetic energy was just amazing, and they totally dampened it by closing in those screen tubes just for some crummy show scenes that are really bad. It was a terrible decision in my opinion, so I'm tempted to say just delete Pixar Pier or hit the redo button, but you know, since we gotta update it, we gotta change it, I would just say retheme the entire thing to Toy Story. Just give it to Toy Story. The only problem with that is how I discussed earlier, how the Mickey on the wheel is kind of the park's icon now. If you retheme the entire thing to Toy Story, leaving Mickey there would probably be a little weird. But at the same time, there's no way you can take Mickey off the wheel. Like, as I said, that's an icon. That's the Disney brand. Like, you would be replacing a super strong icon of the resort with something weaker. So I don't know how I'd feel about that, but there would be any way to leave Mickey up there and just retheme the whole thing to Toy Story, that would be perfect. And if you gotta include Paradise Gardens Park, it used to be one giant land. It used to be complete, a whole circle around Paradise Bay, and they split it in two, which is just another this is just a rant about Pixar Pier now, but it's terrible, dude. It's awful. Oh my gosh, it makes me so irrationally upset at how much they messed it up, at least in my opinion. I'm gonna have to make a video dedicated to my hatred for this decision. It's gonna happen one day. Making a hard right turn, let's move on to the Avengers attraction that has been announced for California Adventure. Disney has been really confusing lately, basically announcing blue sky projects, and it's really hard to tell if this Avengers attraction is coming or if it's just one of these dumb ideas that may or may not happen. They're basically trying to announce things without committing to anything, which is just the lamest thing ever. So from what I understand, that this attraction is actually going to happen relatively soon, and that's the way they're making it sound. So I really hope it happens. It's a super exciting idea. It seems like this iteration of the attraction is going to be far less ambitious than the original one that I discussed earlier, that hopefully can still happen one day. I feel like I have to put this on the wish list because I really want it to happen, and really my main point is I really want it to be good. Like, as I discussed earlier, California Adventure needs a ride that's on the same level as Rise of the Resistance or Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom, and I feel like this ride concept has the potential to be that for California Adventure. When this opens, I really hope it's awesome. I hope it's an incredible ride, and I really hope it's on that same level, that standard that we should expect from Disney these days, like another world-class attraction basically. I don't know if it's going to be on that level, but that's what I'm wishing for, which is why it's on this list. Moving on to my final idea for California Adventure. This one is pretty underdeveloped, but if you've seen the Disneyland Forward proposal, I really hope that California Adventure expands over the road, over closer to the Paradise Pier Hotel, or the Pixar Pier Hotel, whatever it's called now, is now used for downtown Disney parking. I hope that becomes part of California Adventure. It would be really hard to choose a franchise to use that humongous plot of land. I came up with the idea of maybe like a modern Disney Springs. Like at Tokyo Disney Sea, they're doing Disney Springs with some classic franchises like Peter Pan. I think Tangled is in there too, so that's kind of a modern franchise, but you know, the same idea applies. And maybe you can include movies like Encanto, maybe Zootopia, or I feel like Zootopia could work at the other park, so maybe you can maybe the Inside Out ride would have to go over here, or Coco. Coco is another franchise that could definitely work. I just hope that DCA expands over to this parking lot someday, and I hope that they use the land wisely, which I'm sure they will. Disney understands that land at the Disneyland Resort is incredibly valuable, and I think they knocked it out of the park with Galaxy's Edge, and they definitely know how to use space wisely, so I'm sure that they'll pick the right franchise or land to theme this area to, so maybe it'll have to be multiple lands, or maybe you move Wakanda over here and then you do something else with the back lot, but that would kind of feel messy if you disconnected the Marvel stuff. I mean, I don't know, because Wakanda would be themed to Wakanda, and then you could do whatever with the back lot, and Avengers Campus would be themed to Avengers Campus. The premise for Avengers Campus is a little silly to me. It's like the Avengers built a compound at California Adventure, which is why they're still keeping the California Adventure name, but I feel like that's just so so vague and loose, and it feels messy to me. This is kind of a weird rant video about California Adventure's problems now, but either way, I really hope that they use this plot of land someday, and I'm sure they use it well. I've heard some people discussing that this might be the only place where Tron could go, and I really hope Tron doesn't come to California Adventure. This park, I should say. I don't think it matches with any of the other attractions here, and I feel like Tron should be at a castle park, but I don't know. That's just my opinion, having been on the attraction at Magic Kingdom. So yeah, that has been my wish list for Disney's California Adventure in the future. Let me know what you think about this video. How do you feel about these ideas? Do you have some ideas of your own? Please share those in the comments below. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you later.